Very hard for Kansas every day that I've had the privilege of public service. I stood up to the president keeping terrorists out of Kansas. I brought the big red one back to Fort Riley. I led the fight to ensure that the world's biggest tanker refueling fleet will be at McConnell. I'm responsible for the Lewis and Clark Center being based at Fort Leavenworth. That's the finest military university in the world. I am the proud father of INBAF in Manhattan. Real jobs, real growth. It will transform our economy. And I protected and improved crop insurance for Kansas farmers. Here's a classic example. He doesn't know the Farm Bill.
Time. All right, the next question is from Liz Montano with the Kansas Radio Networks in Topeka, and this will be directed first toward Mr. Orman.
What action should be taken by Congress to curb the growing immigration crisis intensified by an influx of unaccompanied children fleeing Central America?
Great question. And the immigration crisis in America is an example of what's wrong with Washington. When my opponent went into the House of Representatives, we had 3 million undocumented people in this country. Today we have over 11 million. And both parties have had an opportunity to solve this problem. Both Democrats and Republicans have failed to solve it. What I've said is for immigration reform to work, it needs to be tough, practical, and fair. And by tough, I mean we need to secure our borders. We need to make sure that we continue our commitment to border security and secure our borders. By practical, I mean, I think it's absolutely impractical to think that we're going to find and deport 11.5 million people. And I think it's frankly ill-advised. There are whole towns in western Kansas that would go away. The agricultural industry, the meatpacking industry would go away. So how do we make it fair to taxpayers? If you're here on an undocumented basis, you should register with ICE, pay a fine, obey our laws, hold down a job and pay taxes, and then I think you should be able to stay here. But let's be clear, this is a problem both parties have failed to solve.
Senator Roberts.
Secure the border. No amnesty. One of the biggest problems we're going to face right away when I go back to Washington is the President of the United States, who says he will declare by executive order an immigration policy with amnesty. You know, I think it's ironic. We wouldn't have this tremendous problem on the border unless the President of the United States 2 years ago told people 16 years and under they would not be deported. As a result, we've seen thousands come over the border. We have to secure the border. It is a humanitarian problem that has to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, we wouldn't have this problem if we didn't have Barack Obama and Harry Reid in the Senate. And every day, I am fighting to undo the damage that my opponent has caused with his support for Obama and for Harry Reid.
Mr. Orman, 30 seconds rebuttal.
This may surprise some people, but I actually agree that President Obama taking executive action on immigration and bypassing Congress isn't the right thing to do. I believe that we are a nation of laws. And as a result of that, I really do believe that we need to solve this problem legislatively, but that's where the failure lies. Both parties have had an opportunity to solve this problem, and both parties haven't had the political courage to address it.
All right, the next question comes from Michael Schlenke with KWCH-TV in Wichita, and this will be addressed to Senator Roberts.
Thank you. Kansas continues to lag behind other states and the national average when it comes to job growth. If elected, how will you specifically support job growth and new business development in Kansas?
Well, my record shows, make it rain. Greg, can I have a little help here?
Ladies and gentlemen, please, like we said, we want you to be courteous. Let the candidates answer their questions. You can respond to the candidates, but we want both sides to be fair on this, to be able to do that.
I think the business climate in Kansas is such that people want to know how to plan ahead. They want certainty. They don't want all this tremendous overflow with regulations. I have a comprehensive bill on regulatory reform. I have every Republican vote and 10 covert Democrats because they didn't want to tell Harry Reid. Harry Reid would not even let us vote on it. But look at the record. Look at the record. I have brought jobs back when we had the tanker base at McConnell, when we had the biggest university in America and the world up at Leavenworth, the intellectual center of the Army, the Big Red One moving back to Kansas, and yes, NBAF. NBAF will be $3.5 billion to the Kansas economy. I'm the father of NBAF. We will get it done this session, and it will be the jewel in our effort for the animal health corridor, which will help transform our Kansas economy.
Mr. Orman.
I agree with the senator's statement that we need to have certainty, but what certainty means is Congress needs to start getting its business done. I spoke with Barry Flinchbaugh at K-State, and Dr. Flinchbaugh said we would have significantly more growth in the ag sector in Kansas if we created certainty in our immigration policy. I think we would have significant additional growth and investment if Congress just got their act together and let American businesses know that we're going to solve our financial crisis that we have in this country. And so I think Congress getting their act together is first and foremost what we need to do. The other thing I will say is I've built and grown businesses my whole life. I've traveled the state of Kansas. I know that to build industry in Kansas is going to require a very diverse approach. What we need in western Kansas isn't the same thing we need in Manhattan and isn't the same thing we need in the Kansas City area. And so I think we need to take a very, very distinct approach that distinguishes between the needs of our regions in order to create jobs and create growth in this state.
Senator Roberts, 30 seconds rebuttal.
Getting business done. Really. Getting business done in the United States Senate. Really. 350 bills have come from the House and they're gathering dust in the Senate. This is where good legislation goes to die. It's because of Harry Reid, who will not allow any amendment, Republican or Democrat. He doesn't want to put his Democrats online. I am the only one on this stage that can make a Republican majority, put Harry Reid out to pasture, and get things done.
All right, the next question comes from Nick Schween, managing editor of the Hayes Daily News, and will be addressed to Mr. Orman first.
The winner of this election likely will play a significant role in the development of the next farm bill. What do you see as key elements necessary to equip Kansas producers with the tools to feed a growing and hungry world?
Well, first and foremost, as it relates to the Farm Bill, the farmers I've talked to around the state say the most important element of it to them is the crop insurance program. They need to be able to plant their crops with certainty. And we're in a world where we've got significantly more uncertain weather patterns, so I think that's absolutely vital to the development of the ag economy in Kansas and the farmers in Kansas. The other issue we obviously face is water. As Senator Roberts referred to the governor's 50-year water plan, but I also think we need to look at the Farm Bill and make sure that we're not inadvertently encouraging or discouraging the planting of low water intensity crops. I've talked to farmers in Kansas who've said they'd like to plant more milo, they'd like to plant it, but the cost of insuring it through the federal crop insurance program is significantly more expensive than planting corn. And milo, as we know, consumes half as much water. So I think we need to make sure that our federal farm programs encourage water conservation so that we can preserve that resource for western Kansas.
Senator Roberts.
Well, I thank my opponent for bringing up crop insurance. Bob Kerry, a Democrat from Nebraska, Pat Roberts from Kansas, forged the crop insurance program some time ago. I'm a father of the crop insurance program. And in this farm bill, it was tough because there were enemies of crop insurance. I protected it, I saved it, and we improved it. That's a significant thing that we done. Now, he says I voted against the farm bill. Number one, it goes in the wrong direction. Many of these farmers aren't going to worry about low-intensity water, and goodness knows I don't want the federal government trying to control that. But at any rate, farmers will now be planning for the government instead of making the decisions themselves. Second, more regulations, and goodness knows we don't need any of that. And lastly, food stamps. If there is ever a program that cries for reform, both for the taxpayer and those who truly need it, it is food stamps. None of that happened. On the basis of that, I voted no on the farm bill, but we protected and improved crop insurance.
Mr. Orman, 30 seconds rebuttal.
Well, Senator Roberts raised food stamps, so there's no question, and I've said this a lot in the campaign, that while it's harder than ever for the average American to get ahead, it's also paradoxically easier to do nothing with your life. And I think we do need to reform the social safety net and look at those programs that are being abused and try to figure out a real simple question. Are they promoting upward mobility and accountability, or are they promoting complacency and dependency? And I agree that the ones that are promoting complacency and dependency need to be changed.
Okay, the next question comes from Liz Montano, Kansas Radio Networks in Topeka. And this question will be directed first toward Senator Roberts.
Military budget cuts have been affecting our troops, both active duty and National Guard, especially following the drawing down of troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Guard has a dual mission to fight for our nation and to protect our state, responding to disasters here at home. What will you do to help ensure our National Guard troops continue to get the needed funding to train for both war and domestic response?
First thing we do is exempt the military from the sequester. That means more money for our troops. We are now at lower levels than we've ever been since World War II. Our first obligation when we go to Washington is to protect our individual freedoms. As the senior Marine in the Congress, I sure as heck know that. Now, let me just say that our military security, our national security strategy can be summed up with the President saying, we don't have a strategy. We have to have a strategy. With ISIS, the latest savage terrorist group that intelligence services have told us will make an attack on America, we must remain vigilant. So I will be supporting the military, always have, as the senior Marine in the Congress. That's where I am. We take that hill.
Mr. Orman.
I agree with Senator Roberts. Sequester is a problem. But let's remember what sequester is. Sequester is the greatest example of Washington's failure to get their act together. As part of a debt ceiling agreement, we were supposed to put together this super committee, supposedly of the best legislators from both parties, and they were supposed to come up with targeted cuts to help get our budget back under control. Sequester was the penalty provision that was never supposed to happen. And as no greater example of our inability to get things done in Washington, we have sequester. I agree, it's a real problem when it comes to our military. I talked to the head of AUSA in Fort Riley, General Maddox, and he gave me a very detailed briefing on what sequester is going to do to troop levels, what it's going to do to readiness and preparedness, and it's a huge problem that needs to be addressed.
Senator Roberts, 30 seconds rebuttal.
The sequester was thought up by Jack Lew and President Obama, the man you contributed to, the man you supported, and the man that you voted for. We would not have this kind of a problem with this administration making such drastic cuts to the defense budget. And with regards to the sequester, They exempted, they, meaning the Democrat majority, they exempted all the entitlement programs and the food stamp programs and targeted the military, thinking that Republicans would never go along with it. Well, Republicans surprised them because we have an $18 trillion debt. And so we wanted everybody under the sequester or not.
Time. Just one note as well, that if you want to go back and listen to this debate afterwards, you can go to our websites, either kansasagnetwork.com or wibwnewsnow.com. If you didn't DVR the K-State game, I'm sorry, I can't help you there. So, all right, the next question.
Score is 31 to 21.
The next question comes from Michael Schwenke, KWCH-TV in Wichita, and this will be directed first towards Mr. Orman.
Senator Roberts touched on this. I don't want to follow up. 2 American journalists have recently been executed by the group ISIS. Do you agree with the president's actions thus far? What's been done right? What's been done wrong? And how do you think the U.S. should deal with ISIS?
Well, ISIS is a huge issue. I mean, we spent thousands of lives of Americans. Tens of thousands of people were injured. We spent hundreds of billions of dollars trying to prevent Muslim extremists from having a stronghold in a Middle Eastern country. And the vacuum that we've left has allowed them to form. And so I think we need to do everything in our power to make sure that ISIS cannot stand. And so in terms of airstrikes, absolutely. In terms of providing military advice and counsel to the Iraqis, I think that's absolutely necessary. And I think we're going to have to take further measures to be able to address ISIS. One of the things that we need to consider here is that we don't have a properly functioning Iraqi government. And ultimately, to solve the problem in that region, they are going to need a properly functioning Iraqi government. And that's probably, at the end of the day, the biggest single issue that we have to deal with if we're going to be able to address the ISIS threat.